That Mike Krishna Prabhu wants. Arjunita Prabhu.
Last class, there was discussion about that how one has to be very aware about dealing with opposite sex. Means for man, woman, and for woman, man. So both are there given in the Shastras. And there are many dangers involved. So that was being discussed in quite
Yes.
detail.
Anything else? Any point that touched your heart?
While talking, there should be 2:1 ratio,
Hmm.
like one Mataji and two Prabhuji, or one Prabhuji and two Mataji.
3 always. Yes. Please share something. For your side, mic is not there. One is here, I think, but I don't know whether it works. We can take that. I don't know whether it works.
That association of we have to be careful of the association with the opposite sex, and more deadly is the person who are attached to the women. Association of women, more than that, association of those who are attached to.
Sangi Sangi, Stri Sangi and Sangi Sangi. Any other?
Beware of the opposite sex, and which we have given some examples. Even at the cost of any age criteria, one should be very aware with women, and one should not be on the same platform. And you have given some example that one person is to say that Laila, that hospital example was there. So that's what. And one should know one's own capacity and should act accordingly. And we have taken an examples of even from the scriptures and example especially Prabhupada and that, but still, and one should become very, very careful. And on the top of that, you have conveyed the message, unless until he's like a pure Bhagavata, like Haridas Thakur also was associated, but still he transformed the opposite sex into the pure devotee of the Lord, like a devotee of the Lord. So like
Who transform?
Haridas Thakur.
Haridas Thakur. Okay.
Haridas Thakur transformed the when Shagam. So like that, one should be very aware of and beware of the opposite sex.
Beware as well as be aware.
Yeah.
Both.
Thank you very much.
Very both. Any other?
In the mode of ignorance, there is aversion, and in the mode of passion, there is attachment. But mode of goodness, there is respect. So we should cultivate mode of goodness and respect, because attachment and aversions are two sides of the same coin. And both lead to same goal.
Good. Okay. Seems no other point, or is there any? Then we proceed ahead.
People who were too averse to women, all they were you were giving some example that sometimes women were coming and they would spit. So later down, they themselves became is very much attached to them.
His Holiness Radhana Swayamvara says they thought women are like stool, and they became expert hogs, licking on that very stool for whole of their lives. So one should never be averse, disrespectful to women. One should not be attached to them, but one should be respectful to them. Like that. Anything you want to share?
Like especially like dealing with Matajis, like you were explaining, that part we should be careful.
We should not be fearful, but we should be careful.
Yes.
Like it was mentioned, like woman, like she's Maya for men, and man is Maya for woman.
Correct. So both should. That means we should not be attached to the member of the opposite sex. We should be attached to Krishna, Husband should not be attached to wife, wife should not be attached to husband, both should be attached to Krishna. Everyone should be attached to Krishna. That was the last point towards the end we discussed. So we proceed further then. We ended at 42nd. 43rd to 48 is reclaiming one's eternal nature, or understanding birth and death and going beyond. So 43rd, please repeat. Dehena jiva bhutena lokal lokam anuvrajan bhunjan eva karmani karoti aviratam puman. Due to his particular type of body, the materialistic living entity wanders from one planet to another, lokan lokam anuvrajan, following fruitive activities. In this way, he involves himself in fruitive activities and enjoys the result incessantly. So, Dehena, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, repeated birth and death of the jiva. Why results in another bodies in heaven or hell? Answer is performs acts by his subtle body. So he performs acts with his subtle body, and the gross body he may give up and then accept another one, continues the cycle. In the purport, Prabhupada says, when the living entity is encased in the material body, he is called Jiva Bhuta. And when he is free from the material body, he is called Brahma Bhuta. Again, that Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavanaji. After getting this seed, if one sows it within his heart and pours water on it by hearing and chanting, the seed grows into a big plant, and there are fruits and flowers which the living entity can enjoy, even in this material world. That is called the Brahma Bhuta stage. So Prabhupada's explanation of Brahma Bhuta stage is he can enjoy the fruits and flowers of that Bhakti Lata, creeper of devotional service. So Jiva Goswami says that he gives up that body, goes to another body, another place, and completing that enjoyment or suffering, again returns to earth to perform actions. So this goes on and on. 44 to 46 talk about what is birth and death. So death is defined as end of reaction of an activity. A particular activity was performed, the reaction was supposed to come. So when it ends there in a particular body, that is death. And birth is beginning of a reaction. He performs some activities, he's supposed to get reaction. So he begins his reaction. So the beginning point is birth. That is elaborated in these 3 verses. Jivo hi asya nugo deho bhutendriya mano mayaha tannirodhosya maranam avirbhavastu sambhavaha. In this way, the living entity gets a suitable body with a particular mind and senses according to his fruitive activities. When the reaction of his particular activity comes to an end, that end is called death. And when a particular type of reaction begins, that beginning is called birth. Prabhupada quotes Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, Yantra Rudhani Maya. Under the spell of Maya, one is wandering all over. Materialistic life involves a series of actions and reactions. It is a long film spool of actions and reactions, and one lifespan is just a flash in such a reactionary show. When a child is born, it is to be understood that his particular type of body is the beginning of another set of activities. And when an old man dies, it is to be understood that one set of reactionary activities is finished. It is something like we have a job in a particular company, the job is that. So when that job is over, he gives up that company. and then next another script, whatever. So it goes on, birth, death. And then Prabhupada says one who has pious activities takes birth in a rich family, Shuchinam Shrimatam Ge, etc. And impious activities, then birth in a lower, poor family. The change of body means a change to a different field of activities. Similarly, when the body of the boy changes into that of a youth, the boyish activities change into youthful activities. We all have seen that in our childhood. That sloka also says, Balyavastha Kridasakta, Tarunavastha Tarunyasakta. So when we were children, we were so attached to those what do you call playthings, toys. But we don't find in the youthful days people being attached to toys, except maybe the one was mentioned today by Dhirshant Prabhu. That is the mobile. That toy is everyone's favorite. Old, kids, dying person also wants, ladies, everybody. But otherwise, those toys, one is not attached to. So we can see within this body only, within this one life only, as the body changes, the lifestyle changes, the attraction, attachments change. So another set of activities begin. In the childhood, there is absolutely no hankering for the member of the opposite sex. There is no consideration of that at all. But in the youthful day, there is no attachment to playthings, toys, and so much hankering for the opposite sex. Last paragraph you read.
It is clear that a particular body is given to the living entity for a particular type of activity. This process is going on perpetually from a time which is impossible to trace out. Vaishnava poet says, therefore, anadi karma phale, which means that these actions and reactions of one's activity cannot be traced, for they may even continue from the last millennium of Brahma's birth to the next millennium. We have seen the example in the life of Narada Muni. In one millennium, he was the son of a maidservant, and in the next millennium, he became a great sage.
So Jiva is that Jiva Goswami says, with a subtle body. Asya anugaha. He gets suitable deha. So that is under the control of karma. Anugaha. He gets another body. And accepts the gross body, senses and mind, that is manomaya. And that all for, that leads to the disintegration of this combination is death for the jiva, and its recombination is called birth. So subtle body leaves the body, goes to the next and accepts a new gross body, senses, mind, etc. So that is birth. And again, disintegration of that is called as death. So this cycle keeps repeating. Next, 45th, 46th. Dravyopalabdhi sthanasya द्रव्यक्षा योग्यता यदा तत्पंचत्वम अहम्मानाद् उत्पत्तिर्द्रव्यदर्शनम् यथाक्ष्णोर्द्रव्यावय दर्शना योग्यता यदा तदैव चक्षुषो द्रष्टृत्वा योग्यता नयः. So he's giving example over here. When the eyes lose their power to see color or form due to morbid affliction of the optic nerve, the sense of sight becomes deadened. The living entity, who is the seer of both the eyes and the sight, loses his power of vision. In the same way, when the physical body, the place where perception of objects occurs, is rendered incapable of perceiving, that is known as death. When one begins to view the physical body as one's very self, that is called birth. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the characteristics of death and birth are again clarified. Anayoho is the last word proper anayoho, of both of these, the gross and subtle bodies, that is referring to anayoho. So Jiva Goswami says, when gross objects of the earth cannot be perceived by the gross organ of perception, because the gross body has been destroyed, it is called death. Even though the subtle organ still exists, by identifying with another gross body, birth takes place. This is the cause of seeing gross objects again. Similarly, when the gross eyeball becomes incapable of seeing gross objects because of disease, the subtle eye sense organ of a person becomes incapable of seeing. So actually, this is organ and we are seeing. But then when this organ undergoes some problem because of some disease, so that organ is not functioning properly. So we also cannot see. So that likewise, the Jivatma, he gives up one body because through that body, no more function, no more is functioning. So he accepts another instrument. So that is called a birth. When he gives up the first gross body, that is death. Basically, example. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says birth is the appearance of the identity with another gross body. Same thing, concept is told in a technical way and with example. Basically, identity with this body is over, and then identity with new body begins. Now, how much we identify with this body? But once upon a time, how much we are identifying with our previous body? But now, how much do we identify with the previous body? Nothing. Now we identify with this. But again, after giving up this one and accepting new one, again we won't identify with this body. So this goes on and on. Read the purport. I'll read the first line.
When one say I see, this means that he sees with his eyes or with his spectacles. He sees with the instrument of sight.
So that is also another example. If spectacle breaks or has some problem, then one cannot see. So then he accepts new spectacles. So likewise, the soul accepts another body. When one's instrument of action is broken and cannot function, that is called death. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that death means the subtle organ exists, which identifies with another gross body, then that is called as birth. So subtle body remains, subtle organ is there, and then identifying with the new body, new thing, then again birth. When gross eyeball becomes capable of seeing, the subtle sense organ also becomes capable. That is example. Now 47 and 48 talk about live with right vision, reason, devotion, and detachment. These two talk about this. Vision, reason, devotion, and detachment. Tasmanna karyah santraso न कार्पण्यम न संभ्रमः बुद्ध्वा जीवगतिं धीरो मुक्त संगेश्चरेदिह. This is also talking about don'ts and do's. Therefore, one should not view death with horror, nor have recourse to defining the body as soul, nor give way to exaggeration in enjoying the bodily necessities of life. Realizing the true nature of the living entity, one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. So first two lines kind of talk about don'ts, or first line talks about don'ts. Don't be horrified by death. Just goes on and on. Be detached from that and dismiss from that attachment. And next is do. Realizing the true nature of the living entity, one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. That nor have recourse to. Having recourse to means turn to for help. So we should not also define this body as ourselves. So one side, don't be horrified by death. Other side, don't think that this body is only soul. All that. Going to extremes. Read the purport. First paragraph.
A sane person who has understood the philosophy of life and death is very upset upon hearing of the horrible, hellish condition of life in the womb of the mother or outside of the mother. But one has to make a solution to the problem of life. A sane man should understand the miserable condition. A sane man understands the miserable condition of this material body. Without being unnecessarily upset, he should try to find out if there is a remedy. The remedial measures can be understood when one associates with the person who are liberated. It must be understood who is actually liberated. The liberated person is described in Bhagavad Gita, one who engages in uninterrupted devotional service to the Lord, having surpassed the stringent laws of the material nature, is understood to be situated in Brahman.
So one question, if we should not be horrified by death or all these kind of things, or the kind of things mentioned over there, that means anybody's death we come to know, we should be, okay, fine. Yatasi dhruva mrityur, after all. So is that okay? No. So what should we do? I should cry like anything. Means naturally, not that artificially. So what should be the thinking if we come to know of somebody's news about death? Some great soul, some friend. Friend means devotee friend also. Yeah, pray, definitely. We'll pray, we'll chant. But feeling about him, about the death. Yes.
Actually, we should feel separation from that devotee friend. At the same time, we should know that he is transcendent this material body, and he went for like back to Godhead or another body where he can continue his devotional service or his life.
Yes, exactly. So as far as the body is, as per opposites, as far as material body goes, nobody can do anything for anyone. That doesn't mean that we neglect the body before he passes out. We take care and all that. But when he leaves, so as far as that material thing, knowledge is very clear. But as far as on the soul platform, as he said, we feel separation. He was such an inspiration for me in my devotional service. So now I cannot get that inspiration. That is a big loss in my life. As far as he is concerned, yeah, that body was giving so much trouble before death. So Krishna took him out of all that trouble and has whatever, either took him back to Godhead or has given him another body in which he can perform devotional service in a better way. But I am still at loss. I cannot have his association now physically, vapu-wise, like that. So you should have proper understanding of the whole thing. Then Prabhupada, so basically na shochati na kankshati, on the Brahma Bhoot platform. Prabhupada also talks mukti means mukti hitva swarupena vyavastiti. So giving up all other what do you call identifications and all that, and getting situated in one's swarupa, service to the Lord. So that is mukti. Prabhupada says when one seriously and sincerely engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is situated in the position of liberation. One should try to associate with a liberated person, and then the problems of life, namely birth and death, can be solved. Read the last paragraph.
While discharging devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, one should not be miserly. He should not unnecessarily show that he has renounced this world. Actually, renunciation is not possible. If one renounces his palatial building and goes to a forest, there is actually no renunciation, for the palatial building is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the forest is also the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he changes from one property to another, that does not mean that he renounces. He was never the proprietor of either the palace or the forest. Renunciation necessitates renouncing the false understanding that one can lord it over the material nature. When one renounces this false attitude and renounces the puffed up position that he is also God, That is the real renunciation. Otherwise, there is no meaning of renunciation. Rupa Goswami advises that if one renounces anything which could be applied in the service of the Lord and does not use it for that purpose, that is called Falgu Vairagya. Insufficient or false renunciation. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of God, and therefore everything can be engaged in the service of the Lord. Nothing should be used for one's sense gratification. That is real renunciation. Nor should one unnecessarily increase the necessities of the body. We should be satisfied with whatever is offered and supplied by Krishna without much personal endeavor. We should spend our time executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That is the solution to the problem of life and death.
Prabhupada is giving solution, ultimate. So we should also, this Vairagya is not so much stress. That's why the other day I was telling that though Prabhupada says Panchoshavardam Vanam Brajit, that principle is there, but that is there within Sanatan Dharma. But the devotee transcends Sanatan, that is there within Varnashram Dharma. So devotee transcends Varnashram Dharma by taking shelter of a pure devotee spiritual master. So if the pure devotee spiritual master says, you need not do that step, better you preach, continue preaching. So that is the perfection. One should not, as His Holiness Ketanand Swami Maharaj told His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, that if the spiritual master says that you be under a tree giving a palace, then if you want to be in palace, that is sense gratification. And if the spiritual master says you give up the tree and be in that palace, but if you are attached to the tree, that is sense gratification. So basically being attached to the instruction of the spiritual master, because renunciation, as it is said here, is the renunciation of the false understanding that one can be lording over the material nature. So that doesn't go sometimes. We have heard, what is the king's name? Bhartruhari. Then he gave up such a big kingdom. Then he went as a mendicant. He was wandering forest to forest, town to town. And then one day he wanted to take bath. He kept his jhola and then he went to take bath. And then another person came. He brushed it aside and he kept his bag. And then after they came out, then they began a big fight. What is this? I had kept my bag here. How dare of you to do this? But you, it went on like that. And then one old lady was passing by. She saw both of them fighting. Two monks are fighting. So she came close. Arey, come on, you two, why are you fighting? Just look at the renunciation of King Bhartruhari. He gave up such a huge kingdom and took to the renounced order of life. And you fellows here just fighting for one stick, means that part of the tree. And Bhartruhari was shocked. She is giving my example of renunciation, and I am the one. Unfortunately, she doesn't know I am Bhartruhari. So both of them then went away quietly. So the point is not just renunciation, vairagya. मैं इससे आसक्त नहीं, उससे आसक्त नहीं, किसी से भी आसक्त नहीं. So that is a failure. What is the success? To be attached to Krishna. So if that renunciation of material things leads to your becoming attached to Krishna more than before, then it is worth. Otherwise, it is Shramayevahi Kevalam. In fact, one will develop false pride. Just see. So we have to be careful, all of us, especially as brahmachari. We can be very proud that just look at us. We have given a family, education, money, and what not. And we here are renounced people. And look at these grihasthas, they stay with women, this, that. So this kind of thing, understanding or feeling is our failure. We cannot chant Hare Krishna, feelingly, because pride means tug of war or head-on collision with Krishna. Humility means falling at the lotus feet of Krishna. So when we develop pride of anything, our so-called renunciation also, because it is material, that's why we are proud. If we are truly, in the spiritual path, then pride cannot develop. It's an attack of Maya, ignorance. That one feels proud. One feels proud of what? Proud of nothing. Nothing belongs to us anyway. That's what Prabhupada is so nicely pointing out. So whether one gives up the palatial building and goes to forest, so both belong to Krishna only. One cannot say I gave up this because you became attached to forest. So what is the use? It doesn't matter that. So that this has to be understood very nicely. And Prabhupada says we should spend our time executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That is the solution to the problem of life and death. So that Yukta Vairagya, Falgu Vairagya should not be there. That which can be used in the service of the Lord should not be given up. One should use it. If one doesn't know how to use it, give it to somebody else who could use it, like that. Then 48, which is the last, is also talking about the same. Live with right vision, reason, devotion, and detachment. Samyak darshanaya buddhya yoga vairagya yuktaya maya virachite loke charanyasya kalevaram. Endowed with right vision and strengthened by devotional service and a pessimistic attitude towards material identity, one should relegate his body to this illusory world through his reason. Thus, one can be unconcerned with this material world. Read the whole purport. Davujanita Prabhu.
It is sometimes misunderstood that if one has to associate with persons engaged in devotional service, he will not be able to solve the economic problem. To answer this argument, it is described here that one has to associate with liberated persons, not directly, physically, but by understanding through philosophy and logic the problems of life. It is stated here, Samyak Darshaniya Buddha. One has to see perfectly, and by intelligence and yogic practice, one has to renounce this world. That renunciation can be achieved by the process recommended in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The devotee's intelligence is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His attitude towards the material existence is one of detachment, for he knows perfectly well that this material world is a creation of illusory energy. Realizing himself to be part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, the devotee discharges his devotional service and is completely aloof from material action and reaction. Thus, at the end, he gives up his material body or the material energy, and as pure soul, he enters the kingdom of God.
So, the devotee's intelligence is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that attachment to Krishna is supreme. So, like in the Gyan Marg, it is said that one should be completely detached from the body, like that. We do take care of the body as an instrument in the service of the Lord, especially if the devotees want us to do it in a particular way. Go to hospital, take vaccination, be now on the bed for some days. So we do take care in that way for their pleasure mainly, not so much attached to the body. I mean, it's a little difficult to say on our level sometimes that my body is for Krishna's service, so I must take care. So we may not be that high on the platform. We might as well end up in the sense gratification with the nice taken care of body. We may go to the other side. So not completely neglecting also, not being too much pampering the body also, but as per devotee's guidance, just taking care of this body, knowing it to be an instrument in the service of the Lord, and praying that in future I use it, this proper body in the future in the service of the Lord. So he says one should relegate his body to this illusory world through his reason. So relegate means kind of banish or give up. So one should give up. His body is not giving up body, but basically attachment to the body. That should be given up, knowing that this is body is temporary. So with reason, with proper understanding. How many of you see that sometimes you go to the other two extreme, one of the extreme? Either too much you neglect your body, and some other time get too much into taking care of the body. Yeah, so this is what has to be avoided, though it is not so easy, said easily than done. So basically come to the middle path and don't neglect body also, knowing it to be instrument in service of the Lord, and don't be pampering it also. Otherwise we may forget Krishna consciousness. So goal is basically being Krishna conscious. So that has to be taken care. Nyasya kalevaram, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur says, giving up attachment to the body. So that we discussed also. Nyasya, giving up. It appears like giving up body only. So it is not something suicidal proposal, but giving up the attachment to the body. So that's the end of 31st chapter. It is sometimes misunderstood that if one has to associate with persons engaged in devotional service, he will not be able to solve the economic problem. To answer this argument, it is described here that one has to associate with liberated persons not directly, physically, but by understanding through philosophy and logic the problems of life. Samyak darshanaya buddhya. One thing is, we don't change, grahasthas don't change to brahmachari lifestyle, going to brahmachari ashram only. So they have to hear from the great souls, the understanding through philosophy and logic, the problems of life. So therein the, what do you call, the basic necessities of life are not denied. One can earn money, not that, as it is said, he will not be able to solve the economic problem. That will not be the case. Not like a brahmachari or sannyasi. He just gives up his business livelihood and shifts with them. That is not the point. He hears from them the philosophy of life. So he then goes on in his life. Like Yukta Vairagya. He earns money, but he is not attached to it. He uses it in the service of the Lord. One has to see perfectly. And by intelligence and yogic practice, one has to renounce this world. So not that externally one stops functioning or one stops earning livelihood, but internally he is very detached. That's what is the outcome of associating with saintly people. So not associating with liberated persons directly physically, that means moving to their ashram and giving up livelihood, giving up responsibility towards wife, children, etc. No, not that way, but basically not being attached the way materialistic people are in this world. That renunciation can be achieved by the process recommended in the second chapter. That what is that? Shuddhyante sarva samshaya. What is the beginning? Vidyate hridaya granthis. So they will cut the knot in the heart, not of false ego and not of attachment. So vidyate hridaya granthis, chidyante sarva samshaya. All the doubts would be over. Then shyante chasya karmani drushta atmanishwari. One can see himself as the soul, part and parcel of the Lord, and one can function in this world. One can earn livelihood, one can take care of wife, children, etc., but not be attached to any of these things. Is that okay? So now we move on to 32nd chapter. Yes.
Death and the birth. And while the side discussion was happening about that, actually the devotee leaving the body, what we can actually think about him. But many times it has been seen like it is for like those who are the acharyas or those who are the gurus. We are having that actually understanding whatever the pastimes we just had with them. It was really cherishable, but amongst us, if somebody leaves the body, those who are like equals or the juniors, that time generally it's like I am facing that issue. It's like I always remember that what the light moments I cherish with that particular devotee that comes in a picture whenever that particular same situation happens, and I just feel that अगर ये व्यक्ति रहता था तो अभी ये ऐसा कुछ होता था इसमें. It is a light moments again will
not be possible.
Yeah, ये same moment this person must have actually interacted like this. So whether it is
last, I could not understand. Same.
If that person now he is
no more.
He is no more, and the same moment is happening, like the same thing is happening, and I am just remembering that person, what he had done in the past with the same situation, and I am just remembering that person.
Yeah, so but if it is all Krishna conscious, no problem.
it is not direct Krishna conscious. It is like somewhat light moments.
Yeah, so then we have to become more and more Krishna conscious. We don't have to blame him that he was not so Krishna conscious. He tried. He went on the path of transcendental life some way, and then he has moved on to the next body. So we don't have to accuse, criticize, or anything. And now we have to know that my responsibility, my service to him, as well as to myself also, is to be more Krishna conscious. Like that. And we can proceed in life. We can help others, at least maybe in the same situation. Everything is same, he is missing. You are the same. Now you could make it Krishna conscious to whatever extent possible by being quite Krishna conscious, means to whatever extent possible Krishna conscious. And then after our departure, people will say, then they will not think in that way. I was only experiencing lighter moments with his grace, somebody. No, that was, he would make the situations Krishna conscious. He would give Krishna conscious angle to that. Let them think like that. Understood about us by others, but about him, the friend who has left, we don't have to think about anything. Nothing negative should be thought about the person who has left body, because he doesn't have the chance to improve that situation now in that body. He's no more in the body, and we can pray that in the next body he may. But for that we have to be very Krishna conscious. Otherwise we can be very easily into blame game, blaming the whole world to be not Krishna conscious, and supposing that we are very Krishna conscious. So that is not proper for a devotee to think. Is that okay? Yes. You will be Krishna conscious. Very simple. Yukta means what? Connected. Connected to whom? Krishna. So if you are giving up a particular thing for him, for Krishna, you should be Krishna conscious, because yathamam prapadyante. Krishna should reciprocate. But if you are not getting reminded of Krishna, that is not Yukta Vairagya. It is only Vairagya. And it is Vairagya of something external and extreme display of one's own false ego. Vairagya leads to pride. In all the yogis, gyanis, you can see. They cross so many several hurdles in life and they fall down in a pool of pride and die there. So one should not become proud. And if you have given up really for Krishna, you will be Krishna conscious. Simple. Yukta Vairagya. Otherwise, it is only Vairagya. Falgu Vairagya. Yes. Serving.
Purport. So whether one is giving up one particular service for some higher service, or he is giving up that service because of frustration and not able to gel with the other aspects, other people, other hurdles and all. So how one can decide that he's going for some higher service, that's why he's giving some other service?
Again, the same thing. Higher service means what? That means expected by higher people, Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas. So because you are giving for Krishna, you have to be more Krishna conscious. But if you are given up out of frustration, not being able to gel with other devotees in that department or whatever it is, then you can't be so Krishna conscious. While being externally doing some so-called higher activity, devotional, you will be always in the mind thinking, hey, these fellows are like that only. They don't know. And now this person is also confirming. Our criticism and blasphemy of the devotees will go on in the mind, because you have not given up that service on proper grounds. You have given up out of frustration. It's an ignorance. So you will continue your ignorance of devotees' glories, in your next service also. Though according to many or according to you, it is a somewhat higher service. So
Consultation of superiors.
So it is basically your attitude you have to see. If you're not able to see your attitude, there are seniors who could see it very easily. We should approach them. Basically, if you are Krishna conscious, no matter externally what you do, you will be Krishna conscious after a particular level.
Like we see in the life of His Grace Jayanand Prabhu, he used to do particular service very nicely. But then when he sees that somebody is more interested, and then he used to give him the superior position and work under him. That requires a lot of maturity, and
it requires basically freedom from false ego. As simple as that. It doesn't maturity that is there. That is in Sattva Guna. But devotee is more far beyond Sattva Guna. If he, so especially when he's thinking of pleasure of Hari Guru Vaishnava, then he's not in Sattva Guna, he's in Shuddha Sattva Guna. He may not be yet pure devotee, but he's acting in pure devotional service. Just like I may be a cycle man, but I can hold on while driving the cycle, one hand on cycle, I can hold on to a truck and I go with very high speed. But as soon as I give it up, again, whatever, 10 kilometer per hour. But again, if I hold on, again 60 kilometer per hour. So that giving up, and that's where false ego comes in picture. That I don't have anything of my own. I belong to Hari Guru Vaishnavas. I have no possession. Everything belongs to them. I belong to them. That is what is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation in Jaiva Dharma about Yasyatma Buddhi Kuna Petre Dhatuke, in which 4 buddhis are taught: Atma Buddhi, Mamata Buddhi, Ijja Buddhi, and Tirtha Buddhi. So Atma Buddhi, we know there. Yasyatma Buddhi, I am this body of Kapha Vata Pitta. And Mamata Buddhi is my wife, my children, everyone, they belong to me. But his explanation for a Madhyama Adhikari is Atma Buddhi means I belong to devotees. Mamata Buddhi means they belong to me. Such intimate, what you call, possessiveness is there. This is real possessiveness. So that's how we should feel. Elevating ourselves from Kanishta to Madhyam means coming to this 4 buddhis in an appropriate way, as explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Is that okay? Yes.
Detachment is good or renunciation is good. One may is not renounced but can be detached and following everything as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, or one may be renounced but not developed detachment yet.
But I forgot in the 18th chapter, he says, what is that? Sannyas and Tyag. So what Krishna says, which is superior? Both are same, he says. Or what? What does this devotee mean? That is also important, because he may be using these English words, detachment and renunciation. But what does he mean by that? Who is asking? So Mataji, please tell, what do you mean by renunciation and detachment?
Prabhuji, I wanted to ask that means for detachment or for generating detachment, the renunciation is necessary?
If you
Like
mean
that.
renunciation means the way brahmacharis do, then that is not required in Krishna consciousness for grihasthas. Are you okay?
Okay.
But
Okay, so for
detachment means
detachment,
if you are taking, in a sense, the way it is explained over here, internally you should be detached. Like, as a housewife, you should be detached internally, not being attached to your husband for providing you all the necessities, clothes, house, car, etc. We can be Krishna conscious. In a Krishna conscious way, you could be grateful to husband that he is such a nice representative of Guru and Krishna. And I am blessed that I can advance more in such a Krishna conscious setting. So that spiritual understanding should be there, but material attachment should not be there.
okay, Prabhuji, actually I'm asking for general, means for kids, and general means whenever we are in contact with something, we are having attachment to that thing. So
Not necessarily. If we, that's why the whole knowledge is being spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjun, Lord Krishna to Uddhav. So we have to develop that internal internal detachment, that we are in a place, but we don't belong to it. As His Holiness Radha Maharaj says, being in this world, but not of it. Padma Patra Ivam Basa. Krishna also speaks in 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that you have to be in a situation and it should appear that you are attached or you are, but internally you have to be detached. So that's an art of living.
okay,
if you are in knowledge, if you are hearing knowledge in Guru Parampara, and if you are attached to Guru, then this will happen naturally, not automatically. That we will be in a particular scenario, we will not be attached to it, but we will do as we are obligated to do. That is sannyasa also. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yah sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na cha kriyah. He works as is obligated to. So if you are a housewife, you have children, so naturally you have to take care of them, cook for them. If they are sick, maybe sleepless nights, taking to doctor, medicine, so many, everything has to be done. But internally you have to know you are child of Krishna, and your child is also child of Krishna. In fact, that we can see in spiritual life happening. You know, Mataji becomes her grace so and so, and her son also takes initiation from the same spiritual master. He becomes his grace. Now both of them are God brothers and God sisters. Though she can continue to give offering, showering mercy of a mother to son, but she should also know spiritually that he's my God brother. He may be more advanced than me also. Maybe I could learn, like Devotee is learning from Kapil Dev, though he's younger in age. So there is not mother and son, there is guru and disciple. So this is art of living. Basically, we should know. We should not unnecessarily, where it is required, like guru disciple, we should not become like son and mother, and all that. Basically, that is art of living. One should learn how to do that. From senior devotees, we learn that only. Internally, one should not be crying over the dead material body anyway. Body is always dead. But the kind of contribution that devotee had in our life, as while he was in the body, we should certainly appreciate, cherish. We should feel fortunate, and we should also feel that I will miss it in my life, because he will not be continuing in this body. Is that okay? It's a big subject matter, because
Yes,
it's
Prabhu.
art of living only. So it's all of us are into ISKCON, but everybody is at different level. But this level has to come. You know, like Narottam Das Thakur is saying, Pashane koti bo matha anale pashibo Gauranga gunera nidhi kotha gele pabo. So he's saying, Pashane koti bo matha, I will bang my head on the stone. Anale pashibo, I will enter in fire. Did he do that? He did it, but on which plane? Spiritual plane. He was not able to. In fact, if you read Narottam Vilas, how he was leading his life. In fact, not only him, Narhari Sarkar, when he went to Shrikhanda, Narottam Das Thakur went to meet him. Only one thing was seen in the body of Narhari Sarkar. He was looking at the ground. He was sitting on the ground and he was looking down. And only one thing was moving. What? That's all. Tears. Because of intense feelings of separation from Mahaprabhu. Nothing else. No body part is moving. Nothing. Continuous tears. Continuous tears. In fact, if you read Narottam Vilas, you will be into tears. For sure. So much crying. Because Mahaprabhu, when you live, because Narottam Das Thakur means Mahaprabhu has left body. So what is the state of the consciousness, life of all the associates of Mahaprabhu? That is so nicely described over there by Narahari Chakravarti. So we can learn from them how to be leading perfect Krishna conscious lives. Hope Mataji, you are okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. So now 32nd chapter, entanglement in fruitive activities, is also translated as the path of karma. Or this chapter is focusing on criticism of those who are not devotees. In that first 4 verses talk about attached workers, sakam karma persons. And first one is talking of Grihamedhi. Kapila uvacha athayo Grihamedhiyan dharmane vavasangrihe kamam artham cha dharman swan dogdhi bhuyah pipartitan. The personality of Godhead said, the person who lives in the center of household life derives material benefits by performing religious rituals, and thereby he fulfills his desire for economic development and sense gratification. Again and again he acts the same way. So dharma for artha and kam, and with the artha and kam, again dharma, and then again, but then basically That is how he goes on, economic development and sense gratification. Read the purport. Okay, purport in the beginning talks about two kinds of householders, grahasthas and grahamedis. Grahasthas are focused on sense gratification, grahasthas on self-realization. Then the grahamedi is defined. After that word grahamedi, you can read the person who wants to remain in the material world.
The person who wants to remain in this material world. His activity is to enjoy material benefits by performing religious rituals for economic development and thereby ultimately satisfy the senses. He does not want anything more. Such a person works very hard throughout his life to become very rich and eat very nicely and drink. By giving some charity for pious activity, he can go to a higher planetary atmosphere in the heavenly planets in his next life. But he does not want to stop the repetition of birth and death and finish with the concomitant miserable factors of material existence. Such a person is called a Grihamedi.
So he had no plan to go back to Godhead, like Grahasthas have, like that. Grahasthas may be little concerned whether I would be able to go back to Godhead in this life or not. But their concern is going back to Godhead only. But this man, this person, Grihamedi, has absolutely no concern of that. He just wants to enjoy life here, go at best to heaven, come back again, go on like this only, perpetually. Next Prabhupada is talking about Grahasthas. Yes.
A Grihastha is a person who lives with family, wife, children, and relatives, but has no attachment for them. He prefers to live in family life rather than as a mendicant or sannyasi, but his chief aim is to achieve self-realization or to come to the standard of Krishna consciousness.
So maybe for that Mataji's question also earlier, we should act like a dramatist, as a performer. In the drama we play our role very nicely, whatever the role you play. If you play Jagai Madai, you are very ferocious, violent. And if you play Nityanru, you are very merciful and all that. So we play our role very nicely, but we know it's a role for some time. Then at the performance is over, then I am whatever I am. So like that, everybody should lead his life. Like a role we have to play. Okay, here I am as the husband to this lady, or here I am as the wife of this husband. So one should perform all those activities, but internally one should be very clear. I am child of Krishna. So that kind of thing, that's a purpose is in the first line only. A grahastha is a person who lives with family, wife, children, and relatives, but has no attachment for them. But it is not saying no affection for them. That is not being said. Affection should be not like a husband is not, that is immaturity in one sense to say, no, you're not body after all. Why to worry then? No. One does his activities as he is supposed to do, knowing that they also have their bodies, minds, etc. But there is no attachment there. So that is very important. A detached worker, as is stressed in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna in first 6 chapters. Generally, that's why he says, Karmanye vadikaraste. Ma phaleshu kadachana. As soon as I'm not going to get fruit, then why should I do the job only? I will not do. Just like giving this class. Or if I am not going to get something material, then why should I give class? So that no, like not like that. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangosam. Don't be attached to not doing your duty also. You have to do your duty. So no passion recommended, no ignorance recommended, goodness. Do it. Your duty, you must do it, but don't be attached to the fruits of action. Attached to the fruits of action means passion. The attached to not doing one's activity, that is ignorance. So don't be in ignorance, don't be in passion, be in goodness, do your duties, don't be attached to the fruits of action. Go on like this. So one should do his duty. Such a person will be able to do his duties very nicely because he is not doing out of attachment to the fruit, nor is he going to get frustrated. He will do it. No matter how difficult it is, he'll just go on and on. It will be troublesome to body and all, but he will go on because subtle body is convinced. His subtle body is in the mode of goodness, so he goes on. So internally, externally, we could be in that goodness platform and internally strive for pure goodness by Krishna conscious practices. Prabhupada again speaks about Grahamedi. Read it again. Read ahead.
Here, however, Lord Kapil Dev is speaking about the Grihamedis who have made their aim the materialistically prosperous life, which they achieve by sacrificial ceremonies, by charities, and by good work. They are posted in good positions And since they know that they are using up their assets of pious activities, they again and again perform activities of sense gratification. It is said by Prahlad Maharaj, Punah Punascharvita Charvananam. They prefer to chew the already chewed. Again and again they experience the metal pangs, even if they are rich and prosperous. But they do not want to give up this kind of life.
So Grahameti means he wants materialistically prosperous life. So that is not a hallmark of a Grahastha. He is not worried about improving his economic development. He knows the greatest economy is Krishna, Krishna Prem. So he acts for that only. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga Dhan, Bhakti Yai Krishna Name Smarana Krandan. The topmost wealth is Bhakti. This is very clear to a Grahastha. And he strives in that direction. He doesn't worry about, he knows Krishna will take care of me. He does his duties for livelihood, but he's not attached to being materially prosperous. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as well as Jiva Goswami, they give example of cow for this, So one takes his cow for grazing, and when what purpose for? So that she will have lot of milk. And then he milks her, drinks milk, enjoys milk, and then again he takes her for grazing, so that she will give more milk, like that. So this is what is going on only. Grazing cow, milking cow, means drinking milk, grazing, milking, drinking. And this is how Agrahameti is. Jiva Goswami says he enjoys dogdhi. The results like milk from following dharma, like the cow. So dharma is used for, dharma is like cow and milking for sense gratification. And this is what goes on and on and on. Dharma for artha, artha for dharma, and artha, kama, and this is what he's stuck into. And moksha is no consideration at all. At best, going to heaven. So here attached workers are being condemned and all that. As such, all are criticized, those who are not devotees. Next, such persons are ever bereft of devotional service due to being too attached to sense gratification, and therefore, although they perform various kinds of sacrifices and take great vows to satisfy the demigods and forefathers, they are not interested in Krishna consciousness, devotional service. So Prabhupada talks about kamaisthaiste rutagyana prapadyante anya devata. They surrender to other demigods to get their material desires fulfilled. A materialistic person has manifold demands, and thus there are manifold demigods to satisfy his senses. So one particular demigod can give him something which other demigod cannot give. So they go for their respective demigods. Prabhupada talks about how impersonalistic life leads to, impersonalism leads to pious life. The impersonalists maintain that Supreme Absolute Truth has no form, and that one can imagine any form he likes for his benefit and worship in that way. Therefore, the Grahamedis or materialistic men say that they can worship any form of a demigod or as worship of the Supreme Lord. So impersonalism gives rise to pious life, not spiritual life, transcendental life. And meat eating leads to also demigod worship, because Kali worship, you can, if you want a goat, you can worship, offer to Kali and get the meat. So that is what Prabhupada speaks. For their different demands, they go to different demigods. They worship forefathers also. Jiva Goswami says, bewildered by desire, he rejects worship of the Lord and instead very faithfully worships devatas by sacrifice, because his material desires are there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, though the person performs activities according to scriptures, he is also to be criticized, because goal is sense gratification. Goal is not service and worship of the Supreme Lord or pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Third, such materialistic persons attracted by sense gratification and devoted to the forefathers and demigods can be elevated to the moon, where they drink an extract of the soma plant. They again return to this planet. So going tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshene punne matyalokam vishanti. So that goes on. They go to heavenly kingdom because of executing different sacrifices, and they enjoy long life there. Life on the moon for 10,000 years. Prabhupada gives a calculation. 6 months over here is 1 day there, 12 hours. And but then he goes to by pious activities, but then ultimately one has to come down. Even if one goes to, and one cannot go to reach moon by any material vehicle like Sputnik, but one goes by pious activities. Tetam bhukta swargalokam vishalam. Next, fourth, all the planets of the materialistic persons, including all the heavenly planets, such as the moon, are vanquished when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, goes to his bed of serpents, which is known as Ananta Shesh. So here Jiva Goswami says the Lord sleeping means he is inattentive to the three worlds. This sleeping is not like ordinary man sleeping, who knows nothing what's happening outside. Lord is attentive. He knows, but he is inattentive. So that is his sleep. Everything is withdrawn within himself. So Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravati in Arjuna, from topmost Brahmalok to all the lowermost planet, everything is subjected to destruction. And again, birth, old age, disease, death take place there. But going to spiritual world, Prabhupada says, contrasting material planets, Yadgatva na nivartante, tad dhama paramam mama. After going there, one does not come back. Prabhupada says, these Grahamedis, they prefer to transmigrate from perpetually from one body to another, from one planet to another. They do not want the eternal blissful life in knowledge in the kingdom of God. Then two types of dissolutions are talked about. One at the end of Brahma's day, and other at the life of end of Brahma's life. So in Brahma's day end, the lower planetary systems are withdrawn, and in his end, death, all the planets, everything is destroyed. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, what is the use if the planets are destroyed? So time here is mentioned is the end of Brahma's day. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. And if the planets are only destroyed, what is the use of these people wanting to go to those planets for enjoyment? 5th to 7th talk about detached workers. First 4 talked about attached. Now these 3 talk about detached workers. That means Nishkam Karma practitioners. In that 5 and 6 talk about execute Swadharma with detachment. So they do their duties, Swadharma, but with detachment. Because they are Nishkam Karma yogis, not attached to the fruits of their action. So 5th one, Ye Swadharman na duhyanti धीरः कामार्थ हेतवे निस्संगान्यस्तकर्माणः प्रशान्तः शुद्धचेतसः. Those who are intelligent and are of purified consciousness are completely satisfied in Krishna consciousness, freed from the modes of material nature. They do not act for sense gratification. Rather, since they are situated in their own occupational duties, they act as one is expected to act. So they are Nissangaha, Nissanga meaning free from material attachment, Nista Karmanaha, and have given up fruitive activities. They don't do activities with some material goal in mind. And that's why that leads to Prashantaha. They are very peaceful, satisfied, Shuddha Chetasaha, with purified consciousness. These are all symptoms of Nishkam Karma Yogi. Nishkam Karma practitioners, executing Swadharma with detachment. Prabhupada in purport gives first class example as Arjun, who declined to fight in the beginning, but when Krishna told he wants Arjun to fight, he accepted that. So he was not fighting for sense gratification, but for the satisfaction of the Lord. Persons who work at their prescribed duties, second paragraph, not for sense gratification, but for gratification of the Supreme Lord, are called Nissangaha, freed from the influence of the modes of material nature. So when we are not attached to the fruit, that means we are detached and we are not any sense gratification there, duty platform. So fear, desire, duty, love. Fear platform is in ignorance. Desire platform is in passion. Duty platform is in goodness, wherein one is not attached to the fruits of one's actions. One does his duty as is supposed to do, and then he is freed from the influence of material modes. Some tinge is there in goodness, but that also can be rectified. by doing everything for Krishna. Nyasta Karmana indicates that the results of their activities are given to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada gives us a very Krishna conscious understanding, because ultimately the goal of all the practices is ultimately to become devotees only and satisfying Krishna only. Further slokas directly point out that only. The end of the whole this discussion by Lord Kapil Dev is bhakti only. Perform bhakti yoga. That is what he proceeds to. Prashanta means completely satisfied. Shuddha Chetas means Krishna conscious. Their consciousness has become purified. In unpurified consciousness, one thinks of the universe. One thinks of himself as the Lord of the universe, but in a purified consciousness, one thinks himself the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Putting oneself in that position of eternal servitorship to the Supreme Lord and working for Him perpetually, one actually becomes completely satisfied. As long as one works for his personal sense gratification, he will always be full of anxiety. That is the difference between ordinary consciousness and Krishna consciousness. So in our lives, we can see if we are having anxieties unnecessarily, which are not the anxieties of our superiors, that means there is some element of personal sense gratification, gross or subtle, that we have to find out. Otherwise, sadhu sadhu, pade pade, pratipadam, purna amruta aswadanam, anandam buddhi, adhanam susukham. So all the shlokas indicate that you should be blissful. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So if there is anxiety, which is not the anxiety of superiors, I'm saying the anxiety of superiors should be our anxiety. You know, our Prabhu is very much anxious. 20th October is coming soon. Bhagavad is distribution rate has decreased. So that should be our anxiety. Know how to enhance that. But that which is not the anxiety of others, I mean superiors, and why are we having anxiety? That means some sense gratification involved there. We have to find out personally or with the help of someone. Then sixth, by executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment and without a sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness. And by thus executing so-called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God. Read the purport. Somebody else could read. Who has? Let him read. He has the mic.
Here the word nivritti dharma nirataha means constantly engaging in executing religious activities for detachment. There are two kinds of religious performances. One is called pravritti dharma, which means the religious activities performed by the grahamedis for elevation to higher planets or for economic prosperity, the final aim of which is sense gratification. Every one of us who has come to this material world has the sense of overlordship. This is called pravritti. But the opposite type of religious performance, which is called nivritti, is to act for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, one has no proprietorship claim, nor is one situated in the false egoism of thinking that he is God or the master. He always thinks himself the servant. That is the process of purifying consciousness. With the pure consciousness only can one enter into the kingdom of God. Materialistic persons in their elevated condition can enter any one of the planets within this material world, but all are subjected to dissolution over and over again.
So acting with detachment without a sense of proprietorship. So in our own respective department services, we may develop that department, we may develop that whatever it is, to great heights or some height like that. And then afterwards, if we are told move on to the next, now this is handed over to His grace. So we should not be fighting there for our consciousness to get purified. इन्होंने प्रभु आप जानते कि नहीं मैंने क्या किया डिपार्टमेंट के लिए, आप ऐसे कैसे बोल सकते हैं, आपको कुछ है कि नहीं अंदर, ऊपर से तो दिख रहा है. So no, cool down, don't putrefy your consciousness further. Already it is quite impure, don't putrefy. cool down. मलिन हैले मन नाही कृष्ण रस्मरण, उसको वही स्मरण हो रहा है, अरे मैंने क्या किया ये डिपार्टमेंट में, है ना, पता नहीं कितने लोगों को लाया, हाउ मच फंड एंड हाउ मच रिनोवेशन और वॉट एवर क्रिएशन, so cool down, Prabhu. So this we have to learn. Practically it is very difficult. People fight, wage war, for how can. That's why in the Christian missionary they have that. They send him to some remote part, Gujarat के उस कच्छ में घुसो उधर, कच्छ गच्छ, and there you start one church. And a fellow in his youthful days goes, works hard for 20-30 years somehow, and then he builds a huge, very nice church. And before inauguration, he may print also pamphlet. And then the top people will say, now you go to South India, Kanyakumari. On the ocean beach, you build a church. Are nahi, inauguration? No, that will take care. You proceed. So this is very harsh. Like in the military, they do, isn't it? It's very harsh treatment. Here in ISKCON, we don't give such kind of harsh treatment. But for our own purification, we can little bit become detached. I was not the one who developed that department. Krishna was the one who developed. He will develop and he will continue all the time. I was just there for some time. One should be little detached like that. Otherwise, this attachment will contaminate our consciousness, and that we can see in chanting. In chanting, we'll have a tough time because we are holding on to Krishnetar thing. Then how can you hold on to Krishna then? In chanting, we are trying to hold on to Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I want your service. I want your service. But in life, we are saying, I don't want you, Krishna. I want you, all the things apart from you. So Krishna says, Acha bete, you are not walking your talk. So I will make you flat. So one has to learn. This is art of living. That's why so much Krishna is giving 6 chapters Karma Yoga, detached work. Bas mujhe ye seva diya. Just like we are told, Prabhu, go and serve in the prasadam hall. You serve prasadam. So you are going there. You reach the prasadam hall. You are about to take the bartan. You are told, okay, no, not this. Go to the other prasadam hall. Clean the prasadam hall. Okay, chalo. So then you go take jhadu and you are about to touch the ground. No, not this. You go for book distribution. Acha, okay. Then you go for Jivdaya and then you collect the books. You are going out. Then no, not this. You clean the bus. Tomorrow the bus is going. So at the end of the day, he has done nothing, but he has achieved everything. He has achieved the grace of the superiors. बोले प्रभु ये तो पागल हो जाएंगे हम. No, don't worry, this will not be practically implemented, but the point is that kind of detachment is required. Then the consciousness gets purified. This is the training in military very harshly because the money is there, so they will do. Yes, put it up completely. Not working. Maybe this mic.
We have the proper example when Srila Prabhupada, before going to USA, was a few places under God Brothers University. He had some plans and they were not facilitated. He wanted to double printing. He unnecessarily. Prabhupada also at point of time decided that it's not a proper place. Actually, they're not interested into. He was not like whatever they say. They're not facilitating his preaching desire. So he didn't wait there for.
Yeah, but I understood your question. Basically, he is Prabhupada, for whom Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, when the right time comes, he will do everything. And there have been other things also wherein Bhaktivinoda Thakur, looking at Prabhupada, said, yes, this will be true. Lord Chaitanya's mission will happen all over the world. Looking at Prabhupada only, though nobody understood that time, but Prabhupada was a Grihastha. So about ourselves, we have to be extremely careful because, especially as brahmacharis, what is the topmost foundation of a brahmachari is submission. And lacking which he will be out, he will have difficulty. So we have to ensure that we are submissive first. And for that only this kind of things are required. Now, in case you are really, what you are wanting to do is recommended, then we should cross check with at least some other seniors and they say, yes, fine. Then maybe, okay. Then also we should not keep any grudge. This person, this authority did not allow, he is my enemy, he is not good. That kind of thing should not be there. Our heart should become softer and softer with the days, months, years passing by. With this kind of grudges, criticism, we'll be failures in chanting. So that's not what we want. Whatever services we do, with that we want pleasure of Hari Guru Vaishnavas only. So okay, you want to do something which is not allowed to do, and somebody else is recommending some other proper authority, then you may do it without keeping grudges and all that. Mind should be pure. Just like children fight over the what do you call that, khilonas and all that toys. After some time, when those same children are playing also with each other, they don't keep that grudge for long. I mean, they don't have grudge only. Externally, they fight over something, but then again, they are very happy fellows. So we should be like children. So then that is fine. So Prabhupada and all, we cannot take like that in our life. In our life, what Prabhupada was chanting 64 rounds daily. How many of us are chanting, and what is the quality of our chanting? And Prabhupada, we know what all he did. So he started BTG in 1944. And whole life reveals what a great person he was. And if you read that our Srila Prabhupada friend to all, we see how his relationship with God brothers were. How nice they were. They were all very happy with his services and all that. So they were not enemies. And Prabhupada says, my God brothers like this and that. That is about some others. He was in good terms with his God brothers. Bhakti Rakshak Siddha Swami Maharaj, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, Bon Maharaj and others. They are friends. They are brothers. हाँ, कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता है, बोला ही नहीं हमने. We are different. And I also told, please listen, now we don't get into arguments. I told already, in case you have problem there, you feel no, I am on proper path, then go to other authority who is also authority, and he says, fine, this is good. Whether both the authorities talk or don't talk, that is different thing. But this authority thing, you continue your devotional service. Don't get troubled. Let us be cool. Let us be cool. Let us chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Tomorrow in the temple hall, all of us have to chant Hare Krishna, sitting in front of each other. We are not in the battlefield. We are in the classroom. And we are just having friendly discussions like that. And nobody worries to know what others are doing, isn't it? Like I am undergoing one treatment, I am running here or there, everywhere. People are there, they are having their things to do. I have my things to do. So nobody has objection over each other's thing. We should not hold on like that. Cool down. Cool down. Let us relax. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Let us be happy. Isn't it? I will not interfere in anyone's life. We may give class and tell the philosophy, but we don't get into others' lives. We have enough things to do. I'm a little concerned about that Bhagavatam set distribution. If I get into all these other things, then Bhagavatam set distribution will remain aside. So like that. Let us cool down. Okay. Yes.
Was very nicely preaching in West, in college preaching he was doing. And then he was suddenly told that.
Yeah, that everybody knows. So, okay, come to the point.
So, so what will be in the mind of a devotee, should be in the mind of a devotee when he is told to leave some service and do another service he's doing, but he's seeing that what he did, it just collapsed. So he
doesn't think that he did it. Krishna used him as an instrument. And now Krishna is only indicating sometimes, if you're as much as you're in touch with Krishna, if Krishna indicates that he did ask his authorities that, but what will happen to this program, this 10 university program, then you don't worry. Somebody else will take care. Though he knew the kind of compassion and love, whatever was offered to those candidates, will not be so easy for others. And all programs collapsed also. All 10 of the programs stopped. But because he sacrificed, that's why Krishna made him a big person here. Far away from his own land, here he became so successful. So we don't have to worry. We have to know Krishna's will only will work. So only whether am I understanding Krishna's will. And if I don't understand, then who understands? I should approach that person. isn't it? Like Prabhupada, same Prabhupada in 67, 68, when he got stroke, disciples said, Prabhupada, don't leave. Then Prabhupada said, okay, have Kirtan, pray that our master has not yet finished his work. And they had 24 hours Kirtan. Same Prabhupada now with such a bigger ISKCON in 77, he could have told them, have Kirtan. No. He said, Kichu ichha nahi. Let us leave this body. Let us die peacefully. So one has to be in touch with Paramatma. For that Jitendriya Jitatmana Prashantasya Paramatma Samahitaha Chitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Tatha Manapamanayo. These three symptoms, Shita Ushna, whether it's hot or it's cold, one is undisturbed. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkha, whether happiness or distress, is undisturbed. And similarly, Man or Apman, it doesn't matter only. You respect him like anything, give 10,000 garlands to him, he feels he's still a crow only or a pig only. And you throw him in the gutter also, he feels, how does it matter? I'm anyway like a pig only. So that kind of status one who has reached, actually, he has controlled his mind and senses and he's in touch with Paramatma. So either you have to be like that, in touch with Paramatma. If not, then find out somebody who could guide you in such situation, what to do, how to take it up, etc. So like that. But you have to know you can never lose anything in Krishna consciousness. There is absolutely no loss, but gain is very great. Prabhupada said. So you never lose. Only thing, we are not able to give up that attachment. अरे मेरा डिपार्टमेंट है, मैंने डेवलप किया, मैंने इतने लोग लाए, मेरा प्रोग्राम मैंने शुरू किया, I started from scratch, what all I underwent. That is all I. So this I has to go out. Aham and mama. And this training is required. Though we don't give it in a harsh way like in the military they give, but better we take it up that way. So one day we have to give up the body only. How can we say that, I took care of body so much, I got up early in the morning, I took bath, I applied soap and Uptan. No, Prabhu. Now time has come. You have to get out of the body. So before getting out of the body, we have to come out of that subtle body, especially false ego. He says, Apuliya Maran, Dekhile Apuliya Dola. My own death I saw with my own eyes. That means subtle body, that also we discussed in the earlier section, Jarayati Ashu Yakosham Nigarnam Yatha. Yeah. So subtle body should be, come to proper purification. So find out somebody who is in touch with Paramatma. सूर्यद्वारेण ते यान्ति पुरुषं विश्वतो मुखं परावरेशं प्रकृतिम् अस्योत्पत्ति अंतर्भावनम्. Through the path of illumination, such liberated persons approach the complete personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of the material and spiritual worlds and is the supreme cause of their manifestation and dissolution. So detached workers are being spoken. So their path of illumination. Prabhupada said the illuminated path is devotional service. Surya Dwarena. I wanted to ask him, I could not ask details to Kanai Krishna Prabhu, but what I understood, I will explain with Vishwanath Chakti Thakur's commentary, etc. Prabhupada's words are also there. The words Purusham Vishwato Mukham means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all perfect. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says they attain liberation. He quotes from Shruti, Surya Dwarena te virajaha prayanti tatramritha purusho hi avyatma. Some place it is said it is from Mundak Upanishad, Shruti, some Upanishad. Yoga Goswami says, devoid of material influence, that viraja means no material influence, that place is beyond matter. There the immortal Purusha resides, Supreme Lord. This indicates the eternal nature. So I'm not sure whether this Surya Dwarena is whether northern hemisphere, what do you call that, Uttarayan, they give up their bodies in, that I could not ask him. I'll ask later and let you know maybe. So they go to the Supreme Lord. Material worlds. In case of Ramnita Pro has access, he has some understanding, metal. You have something? That is spoken there, no? So, and which one is recommended here? Uttarayan. Here Uttarayan. So that only Surya Dwarena. Because ahead somebody comes, they give up, fruity workers mainly, they give up in Dakshinayan. That is clearly stated there. Though here it is not clearly stated, but Acharya, who Vishwanath Shakti Thakur? Some other Acharya is saying. So they have that ability to give a body at will. So they choose in Uttarayan and then they go to the Supreme Lord. 8 to 11 talk about perfect yogis, worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, and taking shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead. These 4 verses. Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, expansion of the Personality of Godhead, remain within this material world until the end of 2 pararthas, when Lord Brahma also dies. So Hiranyagarbha also refers to Brahma and Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada says Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Brahma dies after the end of 2 paradas, we know. Persons who are worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, do not directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha. They remain within this universe on Satyaloka or other higher planets until the end of the life of Brahma. Then with Brahma, they are elevated to the spiritual kingdom. So some details are being explained over here in these 4 verses. Jiva Goswami as well as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they say that they remain on Satyaloka meditating on Brahma until the 2 pararthas end. Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, it indicates to Bhakti Mishra Gyan. Gyan is prominent in them, but Bhakti is there. So Bhakti Mishra Gyan. So they remain on Satyaloka. Or they also they enter in body of Brahma also, it is said. Brahma, when he gives up his body, then he enters in the body of Mahavishnu at the end of his life, 2 pararthas end. So then he enters in Mahavishnu's body. And from there he is supposed to go to Vaikuntha. But he may not. So that is being described in the next. And similarly, the worshippers also, whom are they worshipping? If they are worshipping Supreme Lord Vishnu, then they may go to Vishnu Lok. But if not, they will also take birth. That is only being described. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that if they worship only Hiranyagarbha without bhakti for Vishnu, they do not attain liberation when Brahma is liberated. So here, if they are not worshipping Vishnu, they don't attain liberation, that is being taught. So now afterwards, what happens to Brahma, that is also being discussed. You are clear here? They worship only Hiranyagarbha but not Vishnu. So then, no liberation. Again, they have to come back. Next, 9th. After experiencing the inhabitable time of the 3 modes of material nature, known as 2 pararthas, Lord Brahma closes the material universe, which is covered by layers of earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, ego, etc., and goes back to Godhead. Brahma also and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu also. That's what Kanai Krishna Prabhu told me. Because they may have the understanding of, that's what I wanted to ask him something, but he could not give time only. 3 days back only I told him. Maybe Prabhu, Ramnita Prabhu, if you have some understanding given by Acharya Dintika, you may tell. Because that Vishwatomokham word is used earlier. So I was wondering whether it is referring to universal form of the Lord. So that way they may be worshippers, but they don't have precise understanding of the Lord as a person, Vishnu. So if they are not devotees of Vishnu, they disqualify to go to Vaikuntha. They'll have to come back. They cannot achieve liberation. Hiranyagarbha means Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, or it means Brahma also. They remain within this universe on Satyalok, on or other planets until the end of the life of Brahma. Yeah, but that is not precisely mentioned there as to why they do not go to Vaikuntha. The only statement is made, do not directly approach the Supreme Personal Godhead in Vaikuntha. Wait for, hold on for some time. We'll ask. That's what, whatever question remains, we'll ask our Kanai Krishna Prabhu. Here in the 9th one, it is in the purport. Prabhupada says this material world is Vyakruta or subject to changes and it finally dissolves. Whereas the word Avyakruta, that is Sanatan, or Jiva Goswami says it refers to Vishnu also. Vishnu. That spiritual sky is called Avyakruta, that which does not change. And that word Prati Sanjihirshu, some other place it is read in a different way. It is written in a different way. Basically, Jiva Goswami says he desires to give up his body. Lord Brahma closes the material universe, means he desires to give up his body. Two parardhas over, so he desires to give up his body. And Gunatraya Atma is attaining oneness with Prakriti. He enters Vishnu. Brahma enters in Vishnu, that is Mahavishnu, Avyakrut. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says Brahma desires to give up his body, and Vairaj, surrounded by the elements, etc., elements, starting with earth, he enters in Mahavishnu. Basically, Brahmaji gives up his body and he enters in Mahavishnu. The yogis next, 10th. The yogis who become detached from the material world by practice of breathing exercises and control of the mind reach the planet of Brahma, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma, and therefore when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personal Godhead, who is the Supreme Brahman, such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of God. Prabhupada in purport says, because they are not directly devotees of the Lord, they cannot get liberation directly. They have to wait until Brahma is liberated. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, worshippers of Brahma remain merged in the Supreme Lord temporarily. When the universe are again created, they enter into the universe. So because they are worshipping Brahma, a demigod, so they are not qualified to get liberated. They just remain there in Brahma's body, and when the universe is recreated, they again take birth. Then 11th talks.
The Brahma of the particular universe is pure devotee.
Then he will go
and
back
they
to
are worshipping him in connection with the Supreme Lord. Then they also get.
Yeah, so
go to
whatever
Vaikuntha, no?
consciousness, if it is reached perfect Krishna consciousness, they will also go. Here the other possibility is bit more in focus.
If Brahma is not pure devotee and they are worshipping him not in connection with Krishna. You know?
And they are also not pure devotees. So they are yogis basically. They enter in his body and he may enter in Mahavishnu's body, but then again, because they are not Krishna conscious, then they all are not fit for liberation. They come back again. That is the point. 11th says, therefore, my dear mother, by devotional service, take direct shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is seated in everyone's heart. Athatam sarva bhutanam hrit padmeshu krutalayam. Lord is situated in everyone's heart. So, Shruta anubhavam sharanam. Take shelter of him. Vraja bhavena bhamini. Bhamini is referring to mother. Vishnu Shakti Thakur says it is also somewhere bhavini. That because bhavini means with bhav. What is the bhav? Who thinks of me, Lord Kapil Dev is saying, as your son. What is her bhav? The one who carries bhav is bhavini. Bhamini in general means mother, but bhavini, so her mood is who thinks of me as her son. I have given teachings of bhakti to you, but that is useless since you are so advanced. You're so advanced that you already have bhav towards me. You consider me to be your son. It is something like Vatsalya Ras. So I have given you the teachings of bhakti, but that is useless because you are so advanced. You have reached the perfection of devotional knowledge, etc. Vishnu Shakti Thakur says, Shruta Anubhavam means Lord who is realized by hearing. Shruta Anubhavam. It's like kind of Anubhav also. One can have his experience by hearing. One can realize him by hearing. Shruta Anubhavam. Bhavena, Jiva Goswami says, surrender with a particular bhav. And in her case, that is Devothi's case, with the mood of thinking of Lord Kapila as her son. So these words are highlighted, Bhavena and Bhamini and Shrutanubhava. Basically, the essence is just take shelter of devotional service, Supreme Personal Godhead through devotional service, who is situated in everyone's heart. In the purport, Prabhupada says the Mayavadi and Vaishnava philosophers both want to merge into the Supreme, but the Vaishnavas do not lose their identities. They want to keep the identity of lover, parent, friend, or servant. So sometimes it is said that devotees and Lord are one, but one in one. Desires. Devotees want to serve the Lord, not that they want to be Lord, extinguishing or finishing their identity. Not that way. Next, 12 to 21 talk about more pious paths, that is demigods, sages, impersonalists, and other attached to Shastra, Shastric paths, Shastras, etc. In that, these 4 slokas are together, 12 to 15. My dear mother, someone may worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a special self-interest. But even demigods such as Lord Brahma, great sages such as Sanat Kumar, and great munis such as Marichi have to come back to the material world again at the time of creation. When the interaction of the 3 modes of material nature begins, Brahma, who is the creator of this cosmic manifestation and who is full of Vedic knowledge, and the great sages, who are the authors of the spiritual path and the yoga system, come back under the influence of the time factor. They are liberated by their non-fruitive activities and they attain the first incarnation of the Purusha. But at the time of creation, they come back in exactly the same forms and positions as they had previously. So they come back. That is the thing. So Bheda Drushta Abhimanena. Jiva Goswami says from the viewpoint of Hiranyagarbha, Bheda Drushti. So Acharyas have given different explanations. The problem that lies with Brahma, because he is a Guna avatar, he is for creation. He is in charge for the mode of creation. So he thinks I am the in charge for the mode of creation. Shiva is for the destruction, and Vishnu is for maintenance. So we 3 are the same. So that understanding that I am one with the Lord, equal to Lord, that is the disqualification for which he cannot get liberated. He cannot go back to Godhead. He cannot go to Vaikuntha. Prabhupada says that in the purport, first paragraph towards the end, last few lines, sometimes Brahma thinks that he is independent of the Supreme Lord, and the worshipper also thinks that Brahma is independent. For Sudhamanath Prabhu's that question, you're getting that point. For this reason, after the destruction of this material world, when there is again creation by the interaction of the material modes of nature, Brahma comes back. Although Brahma reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the first Purusha incarnation, Mahavishnu, who is full with transcendental qualities, he cannot stay in the spiritual world. In one sense, reaching Mahavishnu is reaching Vaikuntha only. It's close to Vaikuntha, just there only. But then because he thinks himself independent of the Lord, he disqualifies. So he has to take birth again as Brahma. Brahma and next paragraph. Brahma and the great Rishis and the great master of yoga, Shiva, are not ordinary living entities. They are very powerful and have all the perfection of mystic yoga. But still they have an inclination to try to become one with the Supreme. and therefore they have to come back. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is accepted that as long as one thinks that he is equal with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not completely purified or knowledgeable. What is that? Yes, Aruya Krishna. Before that, what is the line? Second line? Yanya Arvindaksha Vimukta Maninaha. They think themselves to be liberated. Tvayasta Bhavaha Avishuddha Buddhaya. So theirs is impure intelligence. He is not completely purified or knowledgeable. In spite of going up to the first Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, after the dissolution of this material creation, such personalities again fall down or come back to the material creation. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Brahma's liberation is only an appearance. Brahma's liberation is only an appearance. Without bhakti, even Brahma does not get liberation. Brahma has false identity because seeing that he is different from the Lord. Then that what I explained. I Brahma, I am the creator. Vishnu is the maintainer and Shiva is destroyer. Thus, thinking himself to be the best doer, he enters into Lord, but born again comes back. So he thinks himself to be the doer. So that has to go away. It has to be completely pure dependence on the Lord. Then he could get liberated. Next 16 to 21 talk about Lord Kapila criticizes persons who are too materially attached. These were earlier pious ones, more pious paths, and before that yogis, etc. And before that detached workers, and before even attached workers. So here he criticizes persons who are too materially attached. In the 16th, he says persons who are too addicted to this material world execute their prescribed duties very nicely and with great faith. They daily perform all such prescribed duties with attachment to the fruitive result. So which work they do? Apratisiddhani. Kurvanti apratisiddhani nitya. So kamya karma they do. They have desires for that they work, and nitya karma also they do, their daily duties. So they do nicely, and karmasu shraddhayanvita, with faith also they do. But with attachment to fruitive result. Prabhupada in purport towards the end says, such persons cannot be liberated at any time. Those who worship demigods with the consciousness that each and every demigod is a separate god cannot be elevated to the spiritual world. What to speak of persons who are simply attached to duties for the upliftment of their material condition. Even those who believe in all demigods same. They know like Supreme Lord. So they also cannot be elevated to spiritual world. So what to speak of these materialistic people? In Bhagavad Gita that said, what is that? Pruthak Bhavam, 3-4 categories, Vishwato Mukham. Ekatvena tu Pruthatvena Bahudha Vishwato Mukham. So all that different understandings, but then that will create a problem. So here is a materialistic person being described. So he cannot get liberated. Such persons, 17th, impelled by the mode of passion, are full of anxieties and always aspire for sense gratification. Due to uncontrolled senses, ajitendriya, so kamatmana, they worship the forefathers, pitrun, and are busy day and night, abhirata, improving the economic condition of their family, social or national life. Yajanti anudinam, rajasa kuntha manasaha. So their minds are into it. So daily they worship Pitrus, these people who are attached, in the mode of passion also. Next verse says, such persons are called Traivargika because they are interested in the 3 elevating processes. They are averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead who can give relief to the conditioned soul. They are not interested in the Supreme Personality's pastimes which are worth hearing because of his transcendental prowess. Kathayam Kathaniyor Urukramasya Uruvikramasya Madudvishaha. They are not interested in all that. Vimukhaha. Harimedasah. So Harimedasa, Medha means intelligence to know. So Harimedasa means Hari who knows how to destroy samsara. So Hari is destroyer also. So Lord can destroy our samsara, but they unfortunately are averse to the Supreme Lord. And they are interested in Traivargika. That means Dharma, Artha and Kama. Prabhupada in purport says they are interested in the three elevating processes, Dharma, Artha, Kama. Traivargika. Vargika means elevating processes. Harimedasa is explained. You could read that second paragraph.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is here described as Harimedaha, or he who can deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. Materialistic persons are never interested in hearing about the marvelous pastimes of the Lord. They think that they are fictions and stories, and that the Supreme Godhead is also a man of material nature. They are not fit for advancing in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Such materialistic persons are interested in newspaper stories, novels, and imaginary dramas. The factual activities of the Lord, such as Lord Krishna's acting in the battle of Kurukshetra, or the activities of Pandavas, or the Lord's activities in Vrindavan or Dwarka, are related in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which are full of the activities of the Lord. But materialistic persons who engage in elevating their position in the material world are not interested in such activities of the Lord. They may be interested in the activities of a great politician or a great rich man of this world, but they are not interested in the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord.
So these are materialistic people being described in 16 to 21. Any question on this? Lords Uru Vikramasya. Huh? Prabhupada is talking about?
Qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are mentioned in the purport. In the purport, some activities and other. So these are referring to the transcendental prowess of the Lord, which is in the translation, or what are the transcendental prowesses mentioned in the translation?
Transcendental prowesses mentioned in
last line. It talks about the transcendental prowesses. They are not attracted. It's materialistic people.
In what you are talking, translation or purport?
Translation. And in the purport,
they are not interested in the Supreme Personality's pastimes, which are worth hearing because of his transcendental prowess.
So these transcendental prowesses are referred to in this purport
by
Prabhupada.
He's saying now that these are all mentioned in Krishna's pastime in Dwarka, Vrindavan, in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, which are full of activities of the Lord. That prowess means everything is prowess in that sense. Leelas basically, pastimes. And in that prowess is also there. Now, how you define prowess? Basically, killing, what you call? That's what, killing demons or some opponents. So if that you mean, then that is also there. And in general, pastimes are there in Bhagavatam. Everything is nice, no? Janma karma cha me divyam. Everything is transcendental. And one should hear all of that. Nothing to be excluded. Okay, then we'll end here. Though 3 slokas are remaining, 19, 20, 21. Tomorrow we'll discuss. Any question?
Hare Krishna.
Okay, online question. Yes. No question, no?
हरे कृष्ण। हरे कृष्ण। सभी भक्तों से निवेदन है, ऑनलाइन के जो भक्त है, कि आपके जो लॉगिन का जूम लॉगिन है, ये आप अपने दीक्षित नाम से ही कीजिए, क्योंकि यहाँ बहुत कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है। कभी कभी लोग लीगल नाम से ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं। और दूसरा चीज़ है कि वीडियो भी ऑन रखिए, ताकि हमें पता चले कि आप ही है। कभी कभी ऐसा भी हो रहा है कि एक ही व्यक्ति मतलब दीक्षित 2 नाम से ज्वाइन हो रहा है। दीक्षा के 2 नाम से मतलब अभी अभी अंतदीप प्रभु के 2 नाम से ज्वाइन होता, पता नहीं दूसरा कौन था, तो वो दोनों भी निकल गए। सो ये मैं सब गोपाल चंद्र के साथ डिस्कस किया हूँ, और तभी मैं बता रहा हूँ कि कृपया दीक्षित नाम से ही ज्वाइन करें और वीडियो भी ऑन रखें, ताकि हमें इसमें सेवा में दिक्कत ना हो। हरे कृष्ण। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदी।